How are you this morning?
Hey, Amy. We're
Thank
doing
you.
all right.
Good, good. Thank you for joining me for coffee this morning and afternoon where you are.
High
So,
Coast.
yes, exactly. So, this is the first episode of our Coffee with Climate Leaders little video, and so happy that you're our first guest. I want to tell everybody a little bit about you. Previously, you've had a very storied career. You were a Secretary of the Environment in Maryland. You've been the COO of the National Audubon Society, and you were also a Deputy Administrator at the EPA under Barack Obama. And now you have been president of C2Yes since 2014. And our two organizations work together and co-host the Climate Leadership Conference. We've done so for 9 years now. And so the last time we saw each other in person was in Detroit in early March for the Climate Leadership Conference there. So I wanted to take this opportunity to catch up with you since we haven't really talked since then and see how things are going at C2Yes, what programs and projects you're able to move forward on during this challenging time of the COVID crisis.
Well, it's great to see you again also, Amy. I'm glad we were able to get our conference in. It was a robust conference, and I think a lot of people learned a lot and got inspired as they left. But really, the world has gotten a little topsy-turvy since then, and all of us are now working remotely. You know, the safety of our employees and our neighbors and our communities is obviously at the top of our minds in this particular moment in time. But also we find at C2Yes that the business community that we work with and the stakeholders that we work with are still keeping an eye on that long term as well as the near term. And I think that's the effort that we all have to have now. How do we keep our head into that long-term view that we still need to have on a climate change plane, while at the same time continuing to worry about and manage the existing crisis. And one of the things that we've done in the last 6 months is we produced a report that looked at all the different policies and all the different technologies and all the different work that needs to be done between now and the middle of the century. And that report has information in it that we are now trying to apply in Congress as they look at stimulus bills in terms of infrastructure. So we're trying to keep that long term, but at the same time, trying to also focus on what have we learned that can be helpful now.
That's great to hear. Are you seeing that there's a number of organizations who are working to make sure that green energy, climate policies are implemented as part of the stimulus? Are you seeing that there's willingness to include that and priority for including those type of measures?
I think there's going to be a willingness to include ideas that create jobs. Mm-hmm. So, we have to put that lens as the most important lens right now, even to the opposite of any other long-term thinking. So to the extent that we can find how those two things can work together, how we can be creating jobs in the very near term, I'm talking about like in the next 12 months after this as this starts to become more normal again, and still make headway or set the stage for the future work we need to do on climate change. That will have some resonance. I think we have to be very careful to focus on that.
Correct. Very good. So talking about the future, Bob, what parallels do you see regarding the dealing with COVID, combating COVID, and trying to combat the climate crisis? There's been a lot of discussions, people already talking about comparisons, bending the carbon curve, other aspects, other parallels, and other opportunities. And what strikes me is that we have this ability to rise to meet these massive challenges when they're immediate, like COVID is. But the things that aren't so immediate in people's minds, like climate change necessarily, that's maybe why they're not having those policies implemented at that time. or we're not able to address and mobilize our resources to deal with that. What do you think the challenges and opportunities are?
Yeah, I certainly see some of the opportunities that we spoke of in terms of investment that both makes the community more resilient, but also has jobs associated with it. In terms of the lessons learned and what the parallels are, I think we see all the same issues playing out here. There's doubt. There's all kinds of theories. And at the same time, the effect is pretty immediate, and we see it happening. Even with that, some people still want to say, well, it may not be as bad as we think it is. And so I think you have that parallel, as well as when the risk is strongly recognized, there is an ability for the world and, to a certain extent, communities to all together take collective action. And so you see, as difficult as it is and as uneven as it is, you do see collective action happening globally. But as you pointed out, Amy, this is as it's happening right in front of us. And so climate change has this longer term view. I'm hoping that we can learn from the success or the ability to flatten the curve, as you mentioned, with collective action, and that collective action that will be needed to deal with the climate change issue. But in the near term, the focus has to be on the most immediate issue.
Right. And I think the emphasis on preparation will be a lesson that can go forward in terms of addressing the climate crisis as well.
I think the ability for most people to understand that collective action is needed to protect the whole. That's not universal. We always know that that's not going to be universal, but it's been significant. But also, inspiring is the people who have to keep plowing ahead, even in the face of this, whether it's medical workers in emergency rooms or, people who have to deliver essential services, people who, dealing with food, delivering food, moving food around the country, moving energy around the country, keeping the lights on, the people who work in the power industry. We had a big storm here earlier in the week. A bunch of trees were knocked down all through central Maryland. All the crews had to be out working on that stuff, regardless of what's going on with the virus. So those things are kind of inspiration, how the people rise to that occasion. As painful as it is to see the swirling controversies sometimes, there's a significant number of people that are moving forward feeling like they need to do something together.
Exactly. I think the sense of community, and on a small scale in your own neighborhoods and on large scale, is very uplifting and gives me hope as well. Bob, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you this morning. I know you're a busy guy. And I do want to say I'm looking forward to another year of working on the Climate Leadership Conference with you and your team. And this is going to be our 10th anniversary this year.
Great.
Yeah, and we'll be holding the next Climate Leadership Conference in May of 2021 in
New Orleans.
Yes, very exciting. Yes, I look forward to seeing you there, but I'll see you before.
I'm sure we'll see each other before then, but for sure.
Thanks so much, Bob. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.